Okay, today we're going to be talking more about one-step equations. This time we're going to be talking about what happens when our coefficient is a rational number. Remember, rational numbers include positive and negative decimals and fractions. So just like we learned last time, we're going to use the opposite operation to isolate our variable. And you'll notice in each of these examples, when we're talking about a coefficient, that's a number that's being multiplied by the variable. And since in all of these examples, we are multiplying by a variable, the opposite of multiplying is to divide. So in each situation here, we're going to divide to undo either the decimal or the fraction. So let's do decimals first. Alrighty, we're going to look for the variable, ask ourselves what's happening to it. Since it's being multiplied by 4.2, the opposite would be to divide by 4.2. Whoops, forgot my decimal. And so we know that 4.2 divided by 4.2 is just 1, which is why we did it. So that leaves us with just x. And we know that a negative divided by a positive is a negative. And we can go ahead and use our calculator to do 52.5 divided by 4.2, which gives us 12.5. So the answer is x equals negative 12.5. Remember that with equations, you can always double check to see if you got it right by replacing the variable in the original problem with your answer. So we can do 4.2 times negative 12.5, and guess what I get? Negative 52.5. So I'm positive this answer is correct. In number 2, I'm going to look for the variable. This time it's an a. Ask myself what's happening to the variable. It is, in this case, being multiplied by negative 13.6. So the opposite would be to divide by negative 13.6. We'll do that to both sides. This cancels out because it's a 1. And I can use my calculator to do 272 divided by 13.6, and I get 20. 272 divided by 13.6 is 20. Just double checking. It's negative 20, right, though, because I have a positive divided by a negative. Remember, if your coefficient is negative, you're dividing by a negative because we want this to be a 1. And in order for it to be a 1, you have to divide by the exact same number. All right, for fractions, we still need to divide both sides when we have a coefficient that's a fraction, because that's the opposite of multiplying. But remember, with fractions, when we divide them, it's the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. So I'm going to rewrite this so I have more room to work. Negative 3/5 x equals 6 over 25. Look for the variable, ask ourselves what's happening to it, and since it's being multiplied by negative 3/5, we're going to divide by negative 3/5. When you divide something by a fraction, it's the same as multiplying by its reciprocal, so it's the same as multiplying by negative 5/3. And whatever you do to the left or right side of the equation, you have to do to the other side. So let's take a look at what happens when I multiply a fraction by its reciprocal. If I just multiplied straight across, I'd get negative 5 times negative 3 is 15, and 3 times 5 is 15, which we know is just 1. Or if we cross-canceled, we'd get 1, 1, 1, 1, and negative 1 times negative 1 is 1, and 1 times 1 is 1, so we end up with just x. And you don't have to go through all those steps. The reason you multiplied by the reciprocal was because you wanted those to cancel out. We wanted x all by itself. That's the whole point. So over on the other side, I can do some cross-canceling. 3 goes into 3 one time, and 3 goes into 6 twice. 5 goes into 5 once, and 5 goes into 25 5 times. Now I have a positive fraction times a negative fraction, so I know my answer will be negative. And then 2 times 1 is 2, and 5 times 1 is 5. and there's my answer. The next example has mixed numbers, so we definitely want to change those first to improper fractions. So I'll do 1 times 8 is 8, plus 7 is 15. Keep the denominator the same. And 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. Keep the denominator the same. Look for that variable. Since it's being multiplied by 15/8, the opposite operation would be to divide by 15/8, and dividing by 15/8 is like multiplying by 8/15. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Now I'm going to look for some cross-canceling opportunities. Of course, this totally cancels out here. And on the other side, 2 goes into 2 once and into 8 4 times. 3 goes into 9 3 times. 3 goes into 15 5 times. So 12 times 4, wow, my goodness, I'm getting ahead of myself. 3 times 4 is 12, and 1 times 5 is 5. I love this answer. Improper fractions in simplest form are fine. Or if you'd rather, you could make it 2 2/5. Either way. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching.